your very generous words, and thank you for all the speakers of Parliament and the panelists that have been participating in these important sessions. I would like to underline some of the basic issues that are coming from these two panels. The first one is climate change. We are very much aware that whatever crisis comes to this world is going to affect women and girls in a deeper way. Inequalities are already there, and we need to solve those inequalities from its root causes. And that's part of what you were saying. But also, I think that one of the most important values of the IPU is that this is a beautiful platform for exchanging best practices. This is a space where we can and we must learn from each other. That's why IPU was born, to use parliamentary dialogue, parliamentary empathy, parliamentary understanding for building peace, for building solutions. So when it comes to climate change, there is a lot to do. We have to start from legislation. Many legislations are not going in accordance to the Paris Agreement on climate change. Of course, everything is getting more and more complicated, as many of you mentioned with the pandemic. But our homework is there, and the common solutions, the best ideas, the best practices are already exchanged here. And if we go to economic empowerment, about inclusion of women and girls, we need to be very sincere, and we need to start literally from the beginning. Property rights, equal salaries, access to social security. Many of you made very important statements in terms of legislation and policies that are going in the right direction for gender equality. But let's be very clear on the responsibility that we have as a generation. This year, we were supposed to commemorate the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Conference. It was supposed to be a major event that was going to start in May in Mexico, actually in my own country, and then in France with some regional events. But also the pandemic made us postpone those forums, those events. But those conversations should not be left to a better moment. This is the moment where we must reflect on that anniversary, the 25 years after Beijing. How much the world has changed in terms of gender equality after 25 years. Some of you have been in IPU for a very long time. You can tell us if you have seen a real progress. We can be optimistic and say, yes, that changed from 11% of women in parliaments to almost 25. I'm so sorry, but I am more ambitious than that. I think that we need to go all the way for gender equality. And that needs all of us. That needs our strength. That needs our bravery. That needs us to be smart and to have common strategies and to work together in that regard. And that goes not only for political empowerment, that goes to economic empowerment. You know very well that women are very, very responsible. A woman is never going to join politics if they know that their children are not having food or a safe school or a safe environment. Women are not going to risk what they appreciate the most. I'm sure that many, many millions of women around the world want to join politics and make a change for their families, for their communities, for their countries. But we need to build those environments. We need daycare facilities. We need full-time school systems. We need social security. We need to build an environment that allows women to go and look for their dreams. And if they want to get a job, we need to be sure that they are going to have equal salary as men. We need to be sure that they are going to be respected and have a gender-sensitive environment at work. So there are a lot of things to do. Tomorrow we are going to touch a very sensitive issue, which is violence against women. And the pandemic has been cruel also in that regard. So I would like to ask you to come tomorrow, to be part of this summit tomorrow, because we're going to start with that conversation on violence against women. I'm sure that we are going to fix the technical issues and have the executive director of UN Women with us. Fumsile has been a passionate friend with the IPU. We are working together, we're working closely, and we want to have her with us. She's a strong advocate for gender equality, for gender quotas. And then we are going to have a conversation, a more flexible conversation, but with the idea on how IPU should be organizing these Women Speaker Summits. I can use the experience from Speaker Kadaga because she has attended the good and not that good summits for women speakers, but we also need your experience, how IPU should be organizing these summits. For example, how do you want to select the panelists? Do you want panelists from outside the IPU or only speakers of Parliament's conversation? How often do you want to have these conferences? Should these summits end in a declaration? Should these summits be organized by a preparatory committee as the Speakers' Conference, or it should be only like a national event? So please prepare your questions, your answers, your proposals for tomorrow. That's going to be a very important input for the IPU, and I'm sure that for the next year organization of this summit in Austria. And finally, I request, we know that there's no free lunch, so there's no free summit. IPU is working with the Mexican mission at the United Nations in New York, because every 2 years we have a resolution on the interaction of the United Nations, the Interparliamentary Union, and the national parliaments. The mission of the country that holds the IPU presidency is responsible on leading this resolution and its negotiation. So it is going very well. Now we are starting a new record on having countries to co-sponsor this resolution, but the limit is that we have 2 more weeks to have more co-sponsors. So I would like to thank to those countries that are already part of this resolution, but for those who are not, please get in touch with your missions in New York and be part of this. Why am I bringing this issue here to the Women Speaker Summit? Because this resolution has a super strong component on gender issues, especially for women and girls. For example, the last paragraph, which is calling the Secretary General for the resolution and the report in 2 years for 2022, we are asking him to make it specifically about the presence of women in politics. And that's the IPU stamp. We are talking about violence against women. We are talking about economic empowerment. We are talking about the presence of women in parliament. So please be part of this. I think that this resolution has a historical component on women and girls issues. And I need you to be part of this important resolution. So from my side, I think those are the political and housekeeping issues. Thank you very much for being part of the summit. I'm sure that we will continue very successfully tomorrow. And thank you, Claire, for trying to fix technical issues and to bring everyone on board. Thank you again, my dear friends and colleagues, speakers of parliament. It's so good to see you, at least in this way, in super complicated times. I know that we can make a difference. As Speaker Kadaga was saying, yes, it is difficult to have responses at this time, during the pandemic, but here we are. I'm preparing responses, I'm preparing answers, and whatever proposal comes for building back better must include women and girls. So thank you very much, and I will see you tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Madam President, for those rousing